Hello, everyone, and welcome to Saturday night. It is about 7 o'clock on Saturday night. You guys know exactly what that means. You guys know it. I know it. You guys know this was going to happen. Today is the 93rd episode of the year, 464th overall, and of the radio show, and probably about probably about 1560, probably about the 1574th episode and 74th episode of the channel, over the four things. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mo's Automotive Radio Show. I'm your humble host, Mike Mo, and tonight is, well, that special night that I do every night. I talk about something, so yeah. All right, everybody. Let's do this. Let's check our oil. Let's check our coolant. We'll check our engine temperature lights, check our mirrors, fasten our seatbelts, turn on the engines, swap a couple of gears, and hit that pedal very hard. It's time for the gear change show, everybody. Welcome. All right, guys. Don't worry, I don't have some stupid ass intro, but let's do so. I'm gonna have to come up with an intro and stuff like that. But maybe when I start working on cars. But hello, everybody. Welcome to Saturday night, and usually I talk about motorsport or a topic or something of interest to you guys that is correlated and something that I fancy talking about. So yeah, so I was thinking about this the other day when I was so the last episode, I think, was last weekend. I think we were talking about part sharing, or I think it was on Sunday that I shot the episode. We talked about part sharing and how that started and how that kind of revolutionized the automotive industry, made things cheaper, small parts and stuff like that, putting the Ford Falcon 6-cylinder engine in the Mustang so the car could be like $2,000. But yeah, we're not going to talk about engines. We're actually going to talk about the thing that actually transmits the power to the wheels. It actually helps transmit the power to the wheels, and helps us convert that power into spinning energy down the cogs or gears. We're going to talk about the gearbox today, folks. We're going to talk about the evolution of the transmission, the transaxle, the gearbox, or the box as they call it, or the gear change, as some people call it. That's the gear change show. So for those of you guys who don't know, transmissions have been around for gearing in particular, and settings in gearing, and settings in gearing and all that other stuff has been around quite a long time, actually, and how we transmit or move something and how we stop and start something. We've technically had gears and stuff a long time. We've had gears in, we had gearing and cogs and stuff in a bunch of different things, even before we know it. And I think the first instance of this was in ships back in the old days. If you wanted to raise and lower an anchor. There was always a system where you could stop and start and change the direction of the anchor coming in by coming in and just pulling a lever and stopping and starting it. I also think they did that to also put in or haul in the, and I think it later became customary for people to haul in the anchor manually by turning a wheel or a set of gears or something like that inside the ship. So gears and gear changes and gearboxes, well, not gears have been around for a while and stuff like that, but it wasn't until the early 1880s or early 1890s that we actually first, well, actually, I don't think it was till like Henry Ford came around. For those of you who don't know, we sort of started with the planetary gearbox, and that was more of a speed-based thing. That wasn't an easy. It wasn't an easy thing to do because it was an automatic, but it was lever activated. You had to. I think one of the early gearboxes, I think you actually had to use a pedal to get into the higher gear, and you also had to advance, and you also had to figure out how to advance the engine and how to before anybody start, and I'm just going to say this before I start saying the word, I know I probably have viewers that have I know I have, if I have viewers that have any mental things going on or whatnot, there's a term in automotive writing called advance and retard. Now, a lot of people will think, oh, that's to say it's a dumb person, that's a slow person. Well, to retard something, it's to slow something. Retard something, it's to slow something down. This is kind of a derogatory term the reason why it gets so much hate and so much heat is because the medical profession couldn't come with the proper term, and they decided, oh yeah, we're just gonna, it's a brain, or it's the brains of the thing, so we're just gonna use a term we use for cars. And it became a negative term, and shame on the medical society for coming up with that and not coming up with a proper term. The term learning difficulty or learning difference or differently abled would have been different, but unfortunately they didn't know back then, so they just used a car term that got used. So advance and retard. So if you wanted to speed up a car and you wanted to go with the higher gears, you had to advance the engine. You want to slow down the engine, you wanted to go down a gear, you had to retard or slow down the timing back then. Now, the only, and before, you're still saying the word. There's a very I think they use retard in avionics when you're actually landing. I think slow down. It's like slow down. Like people, you'll notice people say retard on when they're slowing down. They're not. There's a difference. Retard, it means slow, but unfortunately, there's two different. The mental thing is retardation. The automotive is retard. Just big, just a big difference there. Just to clarify that, I'm not insulting anybody by doing it. It's just an automotive term that, as I said, automotive term in the dictionary that the self-centered quacks of the day came up with, the psych doctors, came up with the monsters that put everybody and anybody in the psych wards, and they were idiots because they were obviously authority figures. Everybody thought doctors were good, and then it came out to be past many years later that it wasn't. But yeah, so that's what you could do. First manual transmission I don't think came out till the early 19. I believe it was between 1915 and 1925 that the first manual came out, and that's because the V8 came out in the that's because the V8 came out in the 30s. Came out in the 30s. So the Ford V8 from 1932. The automatic transmission was sort of a mainstay because it was just easier to use. Planetary torque converter automatic. It was just easier to use, and then people who wanted to do it just could shift on the stick shift or shift on the column. Bring on the tree, for those of you who know it, from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s, some of the cars. And the reason why they wanted a gearbox is because they wanted the cars to rev higher, and if you want a car rev higher, you need a transmission that's going to actually be able to be geared to go faster and faster. Obviously now there's automatics that are just as fast as manuals now, and stuff like that don't have that still torque converters and stuff like that. But I'll get that, I'll get into that later. And the manual transmission, I believe, started getting offered on, started getting used on, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Cadillacs back in the way back when, and Cadillacs, and I think some other cars started to kind of do it. I think the Austin 7, I think, started to kind of the Austin 7, which was kind of the first real car, really, because it didn't require a crank and stuff like that. And the Austin 7 was known for starting many other car companies. So, I mean, Jaguar got its start because of the Austin 7. Lotus got their start because of the Austin 7. A couple other car companies got started because of the Austin 7. It's amazing how that car formed the basis of what the automotive industry over in Britain was like. But obviously Cadillac and a couple other cars were the setup for cars over there and stuff like that. But obviously a lot of cars in the 30s were either low tech or they couldn't have a lot of power because the automotive industry, well, I shouldn't say that. Duesenbergs in the 30s had about, I don't know, Duesenbergs in the 30s, I don't know, had close to about 400 horsepower coming out of their supercharged V8 engines and stuff like that. So the 265 V8s, or the 320 cubic inch V8, whatever they were, with the Lycoming supercharger, the Lycoming V8 with the supercharger, and then Packard, obviously, and stuff like that. Those cars all had either manuals or automatics, and I think also in the 30s we also had Bugatti and Talbot actually coming out with the Atlantic and the Talbot, and all these cars had what we call a pre-selector gearbox. Pre-selector gearbox is sort of is kind of a precursor to today's paddle shift or sequential manual automatic that we have today. So that was done in the 30s. Bugatti Atlantic had that. I think a couple of the Bugatti race cars had it. It was pretty cutting edge, and it was actually pretty cool. Unfortunately, it was tremendously expensive, and they couldn't run it, and that's the reason why Bugatti actually ended up going under and went bust. So, because they were technologically advanced for their time, they had great engines, but they were they were cutting edge at the time. In the 30s and 40s, they were pretty much pushing the boundaries, and if you had one, you had some serious money because the tech was glistening lamb. Like only the Hollywood elite, some royal people, and the high class in France and Britain had them because royalty. Dukes, princes, and dukes, princes, and just, you know, princes, noblemen, English noblemen. English nobility had them, I believe, because they actually had the money. Because if you were a lord or madam or something like that, you had a lot of money. And plus, if you were monsieur or madame back then, you know, you had that. So yeah. I was hoping the people across the street didn't have any music. But yeah, so sequential manual, but yeah, that was the first precursor to the sequential manual. People kind of gave up on the, I think it was post-war, 40s, 50s. I think it was, we did planetary automatics. It wasn't until the 40s, late 40s, that we got the Dynaflow and the Power Glide automatics from post-war in the 40s. And that was sort of the first torque converter automatics and just cars that could handle the torque no matter what. And that lasted us 50s and the 60s. And then we got the Hydromatic, and we got the T8, and then we got the T400R, and then we got the Hydromatic, the Turbo Hydromatic, the Hydromatic, and the Turbo Hydromatic. Hydromatic transmission was big in Corvette, and it was a torque converter transmission. Meant you could put it in a big block and you could actually drag race it. Transmissions that were built to stand the test of speed and strength and muscle, and for the muscle car era, because a manual transmission wasn't going to be doing it. In that time, we started going from, I think at one point we had 2 speeds, then we had 3 speeds, and I think most U.S. cars had 3 and 4 speeds, and they were usually done by Muncie, and Muncie was a very, very good transmission, you know, the one with the gear 1 and stuff like that. Muncie was a huge transmission maker. You had Dynaflow, you had Torque Flight from Chrysler, push button. You had the Ford Matic from Ford, and all these cool transmissions and stuff like that. And then the manual went away a little bit, and the Hydromatic, the Ford AOD, the precursor to the Ford AOD, kind of came through. And there was a couple of drag racing sequential manual transmissions that were made through automatics, because back when fuel economy was kind of the thing, a lot of people knew that the automatic would be better for efficiency because the clutch wouldn't slip, the gears wouldn't be bogged down. You wouldn't be able to beat up on the cars. Not that the cars had a bunch of, not that the cars back then had a lot of power to begin with. I mean, the V8 back in 1974 only had, a Mustang had 140, and I think a Corvette had 165. Single dual exhaust, 4-speed. They had 4 speeds, but I think some had automatics. And that was kind of the thing. And then eventually people kind of got the inkling. I said, yeah, no, let's put these. And then people saw the Japanese come over and come up with the manual, and come up with have the manual, and the manual actually increased the efficiency of the car. And it was also in this time they implemented the drag racing transmission. Porsche actually, I think it was in the 70s and 80s that Porsche actually came up with the PDK, well, the early version of the PDK. Paddle shift sequential gearbox was only used in one race. And mostly people use, and by this time, I think in the 80s, most cars over in Europe had 5 speeds. America was stuck in 6 speeds, and then after the 1986, 87, 88, 90 was when they started getting 6 speeds, and The and 6-speed manuals, and I think Europe also got 6-speed manuals too. But it wasn't until in the early 1970s, early 1980s, a transmission was being revolutionized in Formula One, and teams were flirting with the idea of a no-lift shift. Now, a lot of teams over in Europe knew that there was something as called power shifting over here in the U.S. You could do this with a Muncie 4-speed if you did the revs right and if you got your shift times right, so you didn't break the gearbox. You're actually able to do this. So some guy said, well, we can do it on bikes now, so why can't we do it on cars? And somebody in the automotive industry said, no, that's crazy. We can't no-lift shift. People will only swap gears with the clutch, yada yada yada. And how will the engine? And the guy said, no. This is and the Italians, of course, came up with this. The Italians at Ferrari came up with this one. They sort of took what Bugatti had, but bring it to the modern age. It's because machining was also getting better. So the Ferrari guys were probably like, and so the Ferrari mechanics were probably sitting there going, well, we got the car. We can make the transmission go up and down without the clutch. We'll just put a clutch and we'll put a stick shift in there and we'll pull it back and forth. So what happened? They actually put in a race car, put a gear stick in it. You only had to pull back you only had to pull back to go up a gear, go down to go down a gear. Not so successful. Williams sort of helped perfect it in the Williams and McLaren sort of perfected it. Perfected automatic sequential manuals for road cars, and it got put into a Ferrari in 1995, I believe it was, the 355. The 355 was sort of the first attempt in a road car to put a sequential manual in there, and it was called F1 select gearbox and stuff like that. It was called F1 select shifter, or it was called the F1. I think it was called the F1. It was called the F1 gear shift, or the F1 style gearbox, or the F1 speed shift, or whatever. Like, some stupid names for it. And you were actually able to pull paddles on the back of the steering wheel, or little flickers on the back of the steering wheel, and race teams in GT racing actually figured, oh, this is so cool, we're going to put this in our cars. The guys who did the sequential box in the cars, in the GT cars, got that from NASCAR, Jericho 4-speed. You just had to bang it into gear, no clutch, no gear shift, no nothing. You just could do it that way. And they got that one. Sequential manuals and prototypes was a big thing. GT cars really didn't get it till like 2003, 2004. And that's where we got the sequential gearbox in the road car. And I think the first car to really, really, really put that into practice, successful car to actually put into practice, was actually the Scuderia 430. And I also think, some Paramount tuned Jag had it. I think Aston Martin also had it. They also came up with Tiptronic and stuff like that. Came up with Tiptronic in the 70s and in the 90s. I mean, coming after the PDK box that they had years ago. Obviously, they still had to shift with the manual, or put little flippers on the paddles. The real eye-opening car, though, to really, really showcase what the paddle shift could do was what the racing gearbox could do in a road car was the Enzo Ferrari that was made in 2002. Now, a lot of people would sit there and go, "Oh, Ferrari, it's a cool car. Enzo is such a cool name. It was named after the founder himself, yada, yada, yada." And the car was very well done. And I remember the British trying to get paddle shift on there. You know, the Vanquish was terrible with paddle shift. Ferrari actually ended up perfecting paddle shift, putting it in the Ferrari 550 and the 575 GT and GTC and GTZ, whatever they want to call it. So sequential actually ended up revolutionizing racing, and a lot of teams used paddle shift on the column and used paddle shift on the use paddle shift now on the race cars, and prototypes, big GT style prototypes in the DP cars and the GTP cars that I watch at Watkins Glen and stuff like that. Those use sequential. And also, I'm not going to forget the manual. Manual has also been advancing over time. I remember when I was a kid that 4 speeds in a car was something else, but I would never think that 7-speed automatic manual gearboxes would be a thing. Porsche does that, Corvette does it, and with the paddle shift. And there's also paddle shift torque converter automatics. Corvette has it, Camaro has it. I'm pretty sure Mustang has it with the select shift or speed shift or whatever it's called. And a lot of cars have automatic transmissions with the paddles now. So if you want to shift up on a Camry or something, or a sport version of a Camry, a lot of cars now have paddle shift, and you can actually manually change the transmissions and change the speeds by yourself. All because of the invention that Ferrari did, like the mid to late 80s, and was perfected by Williams and stuff like that. And so the Italians just struck a chord with that one. As everything else, the Italians always come up with the best stuff. They come up with spaghetti. They came up with the Italian version of spaghetti. They came up with the spaghetti with sauce. They came up with Marconi was the one who came up with the wireless, and the Italians also came up with the car. They also came up with the stylish. They also came up with stylish leisure or suit wear, and they also came up with some pretty hot-looking women. But yeah, the sequential gearbox was kind of the thing. Our manual's kind of coming back, because efficiency is kind of coming back. There's a question of them being in electric cars, unfortunately, because electric cars don't require gear shifts, which is kind of kill. Rolling the gears yourself. And the transmissions are also being used to convert energy from hybrid systems as well, so I can't forget that. The gearbox is a very, very good thing, and each single one was either a detriment or a success or a success for the automotive industry. When they came up with the manual, people just wanted to. The reason why people came up with the manual is because they figured people want to manipulate the speeds of their cars, and they want to be able to do that. So manuals were good. You can do that with automatics, obviously, with select shift now and paddle shift that are coming on cars now. But manual really gave everybody the ability to do that and to change the engine speeds, not turn as many revs so that you could get better fuel economy, obviously. Automatics can do that now with better efficiency somehow. And there were some times when the torque flight or the torque converter automatic really didn't work out, so like Buick's Dynaflow wasted a lot of fuel, like Buick LeSabre sedans used to get like 6 to 10 miles to the gallon because 6 to 10 miles to the gallon because of how the car would just be kept in gear and be kept running and spinning at such high speeds, and it really never had any upshift or downshift. So I think one of the biggest highlights was is that we now have everything electronically controlled and stuff like that, because while we do have still gears in the gearbox or the transaxle or the transmission, as we like to call it, it's just really good. And each single time we made an advancement, we obviously got things to go better, obviously. So yeah. And then we got better engines, because with the sequential manual, we were able to make lighter gearboxes. We were able to make the gears stronger. We were able to get cars to rev higher, because without the sequential manual, the race car probably wouldn't rev as high as it does today, or it wouldn't be as free to be as light as it is today, because when the gearbox came out, Formula 1 cars started revving at 12, 14, 15, 16, 17,000 RPM, and sequential manuals in Formula 1 used to go up to 6 speed, used to go up to 4 speed. It used to be 4 speed, 5 speeds, 6 speeds, 7 speeds, and now 8 speeds, and now with the turbo hybrid cars. So turbo hybrid cars, which have helped make the efficiency and the engines better to perform, but obviously meant the racing more boring, because Max Verstappen can't keep winning, can't stop winning in Formula 1 races. So yeah. I think that's all good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, learning about the gearbox and learning about just how it advanced over time. They obviously made advancements, and it's obviously drove engine development, because the stronger the gearbox, the better, more robust the gearbox, the stronger the car would get, and the better, more power they could put to it. There are manual transmission cars that make 500, 600, that make 500, 600, 700 horsepower now, and that's absolutely legal to make it that way. And if you want to do more than that, you have to invest in a paddle shift, obviously, or a Trimac paddle shift, or a Hollinger or a Hewland extract paddle shift, or a sequential gearbox now. But I know some good engines some good manuals that are good today are Trimac and Graziano, and a couple other ones that really do well. And I remember the finicky Doug Nash from back in the 80s. The 80s were kind of an interesting time for the Corvette and a lot of sports cars in general, thanks to that. It kind of started the variable manual transmission, I guess, and changing ratios and stuff like that. Obviously with that, you had gear ratios, because manuals typically usually have shorter gear ratios to promote efficiency and speed, and usually automatics are usually geared for acceleration, but also automatics are geared for efficiency, but they're also geared for speed, and some of them also geared for durability to last, because they got to be able to take all your baloney during the day. So yeah, that's a presentation on the transmission and how it powered our cars to new heights. Unfortunately, people get what they want with these hybrids and these EV cars, we might not see that. So, just let's just support transmissions, manual transmissions, and paddle shift transmissions as long as we can. And maybe they'll have a say in technology, because I still want to shift gears when I want to slow down the engine. I still want to be able to change modes and speeds and stuff like that. I'm hoping people see reason, and people will not be stupid and will not let the gas engine die, because if the gas engine dies, so will the transmission die. So and we'll just get basically push buttons, and we'll basically just be wafted off into space like Gattaca. I don't know, but hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'm probably gonna do some gameplay on later tonight. Hope you guys later tonight. I'm probably gonna post that. I'm either gonna post it tomorrow morning or something else, but I will let you guys know, and I will see you guys later, I guess. So, peace out, everybody, and hope you guys enjoyed this. And join me for the next Gear Exchange show in the next episode on Saturday. So, till next time, everybody. I think I'm gonna park it, take my seatbelt off, put the gearbox in neutral, turn the car off. I'm gonna turn the car off, put the gearbox in neutral, turn the car off, take my belt off, unlock the door, shut the door, and we're done for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this journey, this little car ride on me with the Gear Change show. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will come up with my topic on. I think on Saturday I want to talk about well, next weekend is I forget when IMSA's last weekend is. I forget if it's the 11th or through the 14th, or if it's through no, next weekend's not it. I think the next weekend IMSA's on is, I think 2 weeks from now I'm gonna do my thoughts on the new IMSA GTP season. That's gonna be two episodes from now. The next one's gonna be probably gonna be about a racing event or a or a driver. I haven't forgotten it. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, it's probably going to be about a racing event or a driver. I haven't forgot about it. I'm thinking about either doing or maybe racing drivers or a family or something like that. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to talk to you guys. Actually, I'm either going to talk about I'm talking about if I'm talking about sports car racing, and I'm either going to talk about the I'm either going to talk about the Tiger Florio or the Unser family, racing family, and those guys are pretty interesting. There's only one left, so I can. There's only one alive left. I think that's Al and Al's kid, I think. So I'll talk about that. Yeah, I'll talk about the Unzers, because the Unzers are pretty interesting. The Unzers are actually pretty interesting. They're pretty interesting fellas. So you guys will learn the story about Al Unser Jr. and just a racing family in general, and what it meant to the single seater, or the sprint car, or the American open wheel legacy. So American open wheel legacy. Even though it's not kart season, even though it's not kart or IndyCar season, I want to talk about them, because I want to talk to people about I'm hearing a lot of people like, oh, Palou is showing some dominance right now. He's good. He's only won two championships, and I just want to clarify. Yes, Palou is a good driver, but he's not as good as the Unzers. Not even close. He's getting there, but he's not as close. But he's not the all-time greats as the three Unzers, and the Unzers have a big legacy. But I'll talk about that next week, and then the week after that. And then the week after that, I will give my thoughts on on how the IMSA GTP season, how the IMSA WeatherTech series is gone. Because most of the championships have already been decided. I mean, Corvette just basically got nudged out just for the second season in a row. So, and I think it's only the GTP class and one other class that's kind of hotly contested. So, I'm going to give my thoughts, and then on Sunday, on my thoughts about the season, and then I'm going to watch Petit Le Mans, and then I'll tell you guys what I really thought, and then I will tell you guys what I expect next year from. It's kind of a gear change show. IMSA IMSA season, first GTP integrated season, part one on Saturday is part of the gear change show, and then I'll do a second episode of the gear change show, my thoughts on Petit Le Mans and what I thought of my first endurance race in Watkins Glen. So you guys will figure that out. You guys will see how it was, but that'll be 2 weekends from now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this broadcast. I will see you guys later. I don't mean to drag on, but I'm probably going to either talk about the Unzers or I'm going to talk about the Targa Florio. I might talk about the Targa Florio. I'll have to look it up, and I'll have to give you guys a synopsis on the world's longest race course ever, driven by cars of all sorts. So I hope you guys are looking forward to either talking about the Unzers or the Targa Florio. So whichever one I choose and whichever one I find stuff on, I will obviously let you guys know. But I'll see you guys later, and as always, meet me back here Saturday and Sunday. Meet me back Saturday next week for another drive and another adventure on the road, rolling through those gears. Good night, everybody. See you guys later.